Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Agustina Lorensa. I'm from class 8 student Pasar. My student number ID 2111711005 and 6. So now I want to explain material about active and passive voice. The first, present simple passive, is a sentence whose subject is subject to work or action. Here are the basic formula in passive sentence using English tenses. If we want to make passive sentence in the simple present tense, we need is or. The following is formula for making passive sentence in the simple present tense. Positive, negative, and equations. Positive subject plus is or plus past verb 3. Negative subject plus is or plus not plus passive participle. Question plus is or plus subject plus past participle. Passive sentence in English always use the form of the verb past participle for more details. Consider the example below. For example, active my mom makes a strawberry cake. Passive, a strawberry cake is made by Mia. Rosinta writes a short story. Passive, a short story is written by subject who is subject to the work or action. In the passive voice, the passive is some the work or the action verb and doesn't really matter who or what did the work. We don't need to always use to the word by in the passive voice. For example, active Anita repairs the work immediately. Anita does not repair the work immediately. Does she repair the work intermediately? Passive. The work is repaired by her intermediately. The work is not repaired by her intermediately. Is the work repaired by her intermediately? Second, present continuous passive. The present continuous tense has the characteristic plus ing. The sentence can be active and passive sentence when changing the present continuous active sentence into passive. There are things to note. We cannot make passive form of verbs that do not have an object or are commonly called intransitive verbs. Basic that we don't usually use the passive with some verb that describe a state or situation. State verbs. We don't usually use the passive with some verb that describe a state or situation. Example of intransitive verb are fly, arrive, fall, walk, and others. Mainly state verb, for example, belong, believe, seem, think, and so on. Also keep in mind that sometimes the person or subject performing the action can be omitted in the passive voice. The following are example of active and passive present continuous tense. For example, active, Tian is kicking the ball. Passive, the ball is being kicked by Tian. And then active, people are using social media nowadays. Passive, social media is being used nowadays. This, for example, present continuous passive. And the third, present simple passive. Present simple passive is a sentence whose subject is subject to an activity or action. In Indonesian, passive sentences have certain characteristics, namely they usually start with the prefix ter or t. Passive sentences are formed from active sentence by making the subject or inactive sentence the object in passive sentence, and vice versa. In contrast to the simple present tense, which use the auxiliary verb is are. The passive sentence in the simple past tense is formed by the auxiliary verb was, were. What is was is used for singular subject she, he, and it, while were is used for plural subject you, we, and they. Formula and example. To make it easier to make passive sentence in English with the simple past tense form, consider the following formula and example. For active, the Dave still has parents' call last night. Debbie wrote some poems last month. Positive sentence formula, subject plus was, were plus verb 3. Passive example, his parents' car was stolen by Dave last night, and some of the poems were written by Debbie last month. Negative sentence. If you want to change the passive sentence sample above into a negative sentence, then you can simplify it not after was, were. Formula, subject plus was, were plus not plus verb 3. Example passive, his parent car was not stolen by Dave last night. Some of the poems were not written by Debbie last month. Question sentence. If you want to change the passive sentence sample into a question form, then you can simply move was, were at the beginning of the sentence. Formula, was, were plus subject plus verb 3. For example, passive, was his parents' car stolen by Dave last night? Were some poems written by Debbie last month? The fourth, future simple passive. Active sentence is a sentence whose subject, etc., as an actor who will carry out an action or activity. In general, in Indonesian, the predicate starts with me or ber, while the passive sentence is a form of sentence whose subject is subject to action or treatment. The predicate starts with there, and there is the word by you have studied. Example of simple future tense. You must already know that the active sentence formula will be the same as the positive sentence formula. The following are the difference in the active and passive future tense. Example, active sentence, subject plus will plus verb 1 plus subject. Subject plus is are plus going to plus verb 1 plus object. Passive sentence formula, subject plus will plus be plus verb 3 plus by. Subject plus is are plus going to plus be verb 3 and by. Active voice, the subject will do something with the first form of the verb bare infinitive. Meanwhile, in the passive sentence, the subject is subject to action and use the third form of the verb, passive participle. After knowing the formula, it's time for you to apply it to the example sentence below and pay attention to the difference between active and passive sentence. Active sentence, will do my homework after dinner. I will close the window in your room tonight. Arif saw you something surprising. I will visit my uncle's house tomorrow morning, and we shall borrow 3 books from the library next week. Passive sentence. Homework will be done by me after dinner. The window in your room will be closed by me tonight. Something surprising will be shown by Arif to you. Uncle's house will be visited by me tomorrow morning, and then 3 books from the library will be borrowed by you next week. And the five present perfect. Before reading dozens of example of present perfect tense, active and past sentence, there are several things discussed in this article. When to use active and passive sentence, how to change active sentence into passive, example of active and passive present perfect tense sentence, when to use present perfect tense active passive sentence an example. About Indonesian and English, we recognize 2 types of sentence, namely active and passive. A sentence is called active when the subject is actively doing an activity. Meanwhile, if the subject is passive or lies only gets treatment from something or someone else, then it is called a passive sentence, alias passive voice. There are 16 tense in English. In each tense there is active and passive. In this session, we focus on the present perfect tense only. In order to know which one are active and which one are passive, take a look at the following 2 example sentences and their translates. Merely and his friend have finished the project. Merely and his friend had already completed the project. The project has been finished by Merle and his friend. The project had already been completed by Merle and his friend. Okay, from the 2 examples above, you probably already know which are active and passive sentence. To make it clear, let's discuss how active sentence become passive. If you pay close attention, the example sentence number 1 has the subject Merle, active crying out activities. What the activities complete a project, so it is called activity sentence. Whereas example number 2, the subject, the project, is passive, namely accepting action. What action? Solved by whom? Merle. Well, because the subject is just silent waiting to by given action, so it's called a passive sentence. How to change active sentence to passive present perfect tense? Active, my father has just painted some walls. Passive, some walls have just been painted by my father. Remember one thing, only sentences that have an object can be used as passive. If there is no object, it cannot be changed into a passive sentence. You need to do the following things when change active to passive with the present perfect tense better. Move the object to the subject that will receive the action. Adjust the use of has and have. Has for one subject, have if there are many subjects, and add the word been before verb 3, complete with the actor by. May or may not be filed. Example of present perfect tense, active and passive sentence. Active: my sister has started a new job this week. Passive: a new job has been started by my sister this week. Active: they have already submitted their paper. Passive: the paper has already been submitted. Active: my father has broken his leg. Passive: my father's leg has been broken. Active: my students have improved their English. Passive: their English has improved. And past perfect. The past perfect is the sentence used to express that an action was complete at some point in the past before another action occurred. Past perfect tense has the following formula: positive sentence, subject plus had plus verb 3 past participle. Negative sentence, subject plus had plus not verb 3 past participle. Interrogative sentence, had plus subject plus verb 3. For example of sentence using the past perfect tense are as follow. Interrogative subject, she had studied English before she moved to Jakarta. Negative, she had not studied English before she moved to Jakarta. Interrogative, had she studied English before she moved to Jakarta? The perfect tense can also be used in reported speech after verb, said, told, asked, thought, wonder, and others. For example, she said that she had studied hard. I thought she had changed to be a better woman. In addition, this tense can be used to express how or dreams that are not fulfilled. Conditional type 3. Conditional, the following example: if I had not taken a bath first, I would have missed the train. She would have been at the same level as me if she had studied harder. Past perfect tense, if changed into passive sentence, will be like the example below. Active sentence, Ryan had repaired many cars before he received his mechanic license. Passive sentence, many cars had been repaired by Ryan before he received his mechanic license. Okay, I think that's all for me. And please help me to answer the exercise below. Thank you and see you.